Hello again, and welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Six Pack NFL Preview Podcast Series. I'm sure you know by now, but I'm your host Travis, and as always, I'm joined by our expert, Noah. Noah, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Excited for all this preseason stuff to be over, but I'm very much enjoying the Antonio Brown saga, which I'm sure you are as well.
Oh, yeah.
Aren't you? I mean, you must be sad he's not a Steeler anymore. Like, why?
I don't know if that's the word I'd use. I think
Why,
there's a lot of other words.
why wouldn't you want this guy on your team? Anyway, so while that is all playing out, we don't have answers for that. What we do have today are answers about the Chicago Bears. But before we get into that, it's time for plugs. So right off the bat, as always, I am at The Real Travioli on Twitter. Noah is at what?
At Noah, SPURLOCKNFL.
Yeah, so you guys know that by now, but figured we'd tell you again. Please go like and subscribe on YouTube, Fantasy Six Pack. That's where you can find these videos, and we're almost done with the whole preview, so very soon you will be able to just blow through the entire NFL or entire league, every NFL team, and get all the info you need. Also, check out fantasysixpack.net for all your fantasy needs. I was told on last week's batch of episodes I kept calling it .com. I'm sorry, Keith and Joe, my bad. But go read the site, .net. Ton of good stuff there, ton of great writers. And once we actually get into the season, once you guys already have your teams, you're going to need to know how to manage them, and they will be there to help you every step of the way. So that's enough for plugs. Yeah, it was pretty professional. I feel like that was a really good one. No, I feel like we're really getting good at this at the end.
Yeah, we're pros now.
It's so second nature. But yeah, so let's jump in and talk about the, I don't want to say upstart Chicago Bears, but they were definitely better than I was expecting last year. And that has a lot to be attributed to their quarterback, Michell Trubisky, not Mitch, who put up, I would say, a surprising 3,223 yards, 24 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. He also ran for 421 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he does use his legs, maybe not as much as some running quarterbacks, but you're going to get something out of him there. So no, I know he sort of burst onto the scene last year. Is he a starting caliber quarterback, or is he a fantastic bench option? What are we thinking?
I don't really know if I'd call him a starter yet, just because I think that the Bears kind of want him to be running kind of a game manager sort of style of offense with that defense. I mean, you don't need that many points to win, but I actually am a fan of putting Trubisky on the bench. Might be kind of an unpopular opinion. I know he gets a lot of hate from some of the guys out there, but I think he is going to take another jump in year 3, like we've seen so many quarterbacks do in the past, like Jared Goff. And also, he adds so much on the ground with his legs. I mean, the ability to run is huge for a fantasy quarterback, and that can really save you on a week-to-week basis. So I think as long as he can cut down on the interceptions, which I do think he will with another year in the offense, I think he's going to be a really good option, somebody I'd love to have on my bench.
Yeah, he does seem like a pretty safe option for, maybe if you're in really deep leagues and you're like, I'm taking the last quarterback of all the teams, maybe 16, 20 teams starting Mitch Trubisky, I could see it. But I think you're right. The Bears do want him in that game manager role, and sort of looking at the rest of his team, not to, give away any spoilers for the rest of the episode. It's not stocked with, game breaking talent. So even when he is throwing the ball around, he's not throwing it to DeAndre Hopkins or Saquon Barkley. So his numbers are never going to be, or at least this year, I don't think will be as great as some of the other, quarterbacks who made that third-year leap. But he definitely surprised me going from rookie year to last year. And if he could make any more progress, he'll be a solid quarterback and somebody I would, like you said, I'd like to have him on my bench. And that running ability, that's pretty appealing for a guy that's probably going pretty late in drafts. So, yeah, that is Michell Trubisky. Don't call him Mitch. He doesn't like that. But the Bears do have a pretty interesting running back situation going on right now. They took David Montgomery, third-round pick this year. So that's, third-round pick Teams usually like to get those guys involved. They also have Tarik Cohen, who sort of did a little bit of everything last year. 99 carries, 444 rush yards for 3 touchdowns, but really did his damage through the air. 71 catches, 725 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I think he also had a few return touchdowns, or possibly. Can neither confirm nor deny. But he's all over the field. I've definitely seen highlights of him, and they really, I feel like shifted the offense towards him last year, and they let Jordan Howard head elsewhere. So it seems like Cohen might be the guy. But Noah, how are you breaking down this running back situation?
I mean, if you follow any other fantasy analysts, you know that Montgomery is a huge player to break out, that a lot of guys think they're going to break out this year. And I do agree with that. But at the same time, I think the hype's getting a little too crazy for me. Right now, on the day we're recording this, he's going in the early 4th round, sometimes even the back of the 3rd. That's a really expensive price tag for a guy that A, is a rookie, and B, has Tarik Cohen right behind him. And we know that Tarik Cohen's going to get work. Nagy loves him, and he's just that talented that you have to get him on the field. So I don't have questions about whether Montgomery will be good when he actually gets the ball. I just have questions about how much he's going to get the ball. So I think if you can get him more in the back of the 4th round, to be a fan of that, and definitely don't go any higher than the early 4th. And then as for Tarik Cohen, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. We've seen him last year. He was so good when he had the ball, but I just don't think he's built to be a workhorse back. So in PPR, if you can get him as a flex, that's a great option, but I wouldn't do much more than that for him.
Yeah, Cohen has definitely been a godsend for me in PPR the last 2 years. To your point, it always does worry me a little bit when they hand the ball to him. I'm like, what are you doing? Just throw him a screen, throw him a 3-yard running back option. Like don't run him into the line and get him killed. But it is surprising to me Montgomery is going that high. I know they are sort of a ground and pound team, but maybe I'm just a huge Tarik Cohen fan, and like I think that guy is amazing. And in my mind, I feel like he's going to get a little more of the work than Montgomery. But I could be wrong. But yeah, having a back in that offense is going to be a good decision, a good pick. But I think I lean more towards Tarik Cohen, and like you said, that situation for Montgomery's kind of murky. So I'd be staying away, at least for an early 4th round pick. If he fell, of course you take him then, but that might be a little too much to invest for my palate. But he could be great. So if you guys love him, go out and get him. On to the receiving core, which is has some question marks. There's some interesting names, not a ton of stats from last year. But nevertheless, we'll go over it. Allen Robinson seems to be their number one. Had 55 catches last year, 754 yards, 4 touchdowns. Anthony Miller, 33 catches, 423 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And Taylor Gabriel's also in that 3-man rotation, sort of 67 catches, 688 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So no, it doesn't have really like any number one wide receiver production. Do any of these guys have that upside, or are they just sort of like solid number 2 guys who you may put in your flex one week or your 3rd wide receiver spot?
I'm actually a huge fan of Allen Robinson. I think he's a guy that's kind of being overlooked, and people are forgetting what he did with Blake Bortles and even with Allen Hurns in the mix, that he was, I believe, a top 5 receiver that year for fantasy. And he's going into the 2nd year of the offense. He'll know that better. He'll have a better connection with Trubisky this year. And he had an okay year last year, and I really think he's going to take a jump and kind of establish himself as the guy in Chicago this year. So I'm a huge fan of taking him. You can even get him on the bench in some drafts, which I love. And Anthony Miller, he's another guy who was a rookie last year. Obviously, as players get older, they'll get better when they're still so young. So I like Anthony Miller this year too, and I think he's a really good option for the bench. And then I'm not a huge fan of Taylor Gabriel. He does have that big play potential, but he doesn't really do it with enough consistency to make me want him on my roster.
Yeah, I think you're right about Allen Robinson, who was even when I believe he came over to Chicago, was seen sort of as like a big move for the Bears going out and getting like a potential number one guy. I know he's battled some injuries over the last couple of years, so if he puts it all together, like you said, he has a top 5, top 10 season from a few years ago, production-wise, and he could totally break out again. So I'd be totally fine investing in Robinson. I'm a little more skeptical about Miller and Gabriel, just because this isn't the most pass-heavy offense and the most dynamic offensive scheme. Like you said earlier, they do sort of rely on defense to win them their games. So I'm a little more skeptical about the receivers, but Anthony Miller could definitely make a leap. A lot of guys make that second-year leap. So I would not be against buying in, late on your suggestion. So if Anthony Miller is terrible, Noah, I will totally blame you. So get ready for that. So it's an interesting group. They have some potential. If Trubisky makes a leap, all these guys are going to make a leap. So that is a bit of a risk, but I don't think guys are going out and grabbing Bears wide receivers in the third, fourth round. So there definitely is some room for value here. All right, last position, tight end Trey Burton. Put up a pretty solid stat line last year, all things considered, because tight end can be a bit of a wasteland. 54 receptions, 569 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So, as I said, Noah, tight end, you either have stars or you have scrubs. Where does Burton sort of fall on that spectrum?
He actually kind of falls in the middle of that stars or scrubs. I mean, I'm a big fan of going out and getting that elite tight end early, that Kittle, that Ertz, that Kelsey. But if you don't get them, there's nothing wrong with taking Burton. He's going in the back of the 10th round right now. And like Allen Robinson, he's going into the second year of the offense. So I don't see him doing any worse than he did last year. And he did have some pretty good weeks last year. So I'm a fan of Burton.
Okay, there you have it. One of the few... Yeah, he's solid. He's not great, not terrible tight end recommendations from Mr. Noah. So that is the Bears. Question we will end on, which I cannot forget, as I did a few episodes ago with the Saints, that it's still bothering me. So Noah, one of these players must be on your team this season from the Bears. Who is the one guy you're taking from Chicago?
This is tough because I feel like I've been pretty positive about all these guys, but I'm going to go with Allen Robinson. I just love the value you got when you can be getting them potentially on your bench. And I just really think at the end of the year, we're going to be talking about him as a top 25 wide receiver.
All right. You heard it here first. Allen Robinson, top 25 guy. And I like that pick. I'm a big value guy, so I cannot bash you for trying to hit a home run on somebody like Robinson. All right, that wraps up the Chicago Bears. If you have questions or just need some more info about this preview, please leave a comment on YouTube. Please hit us up on Twitter. Also, like and subscribe to the video to our channel if you're feeling good. Also, please, we're getting into the season, so go read stuff at fantasysixpack.net. We have all the best coverage there. You're going to love it. It's fantastic. Yeah, so that's all I got for the Bears. I'm Travis. He's Noah. We'll catch you guys next time.
See ya.